Great. So maybe we could just start by kind of explaining why you were interested in publishing your piece with contexts.
So one of the big problems we have in academic publishing is that we get very siloed. So if I'm doing research on gender, oh, I publish in a gender journal. If I'm doing research on economics, oh, I publish in an economics journal. The problem is, what am I supposed to do with a piece that speaks to gender and economics, gender and finance? Where's the journal for that? And the answer is there isn't one. And if we want to reach a broad audience, or people who would be interested in this, and not even just in those subfields, but people interested in the really broader area and the broader themes we're trying to get at, context, I feel, is really the best way to do it. There's oftentimes this debate about, oh, social science, humanities, what are they really adding to the university? What are they adding to the world? We should all be like STEM people and, going and patenting things. And I think this comes from the fact that people don't understand what it is we actually do, that the sort of work we are doing in social science is really important and is telling us something about society that we otherwise wouldn't know. The only way to beat that, the only way to show our value is to speak outside of where we normally speak. Now, this means for me, I do a lot of public engagement. I write op-eds, I do lots of interviews, but we also have to do that within the academe. We have to do that with journals like Context that are trying to speak to non-specialists and are trying to reach outside of where we normally reach our audience.
That's great. I feel like you really captured our internal ethos there as well in your response. And so you mentioned you're writing about sort of the intersection here of masculinity and cryptocurrency, two things that I feel like we don't often see pulled together in popular discourse around either of these topics. And so I was wondering if you could just kind of walk us through the main argument of your article and kind of what you might want readers to take away, the main point you would want readers to take away from it.
Masculinity is something that has to be earned by men in society and something, therefore, that they can lose. So men are constantly surveilling themselves to make sure that they are, in fact, being masculine enough, demonstrating their masculinity. The problem is, in the 21st century, for young white men, it's hard to do that. A lot of the traditional avenues for expressing masculinity have been cut off. We're not going to have a lot of men who go out and do hunting and fishing and building stuff in their garages. We don't get that as much. So how do you assert your masculinity in that way? Well, almost anything can be assertion of masculinity, but it has to meet certain qualifications. What we're seeing here with cryptocurrency is this idea of men being able to use cryptocurrency to get other things that are important to masculinity, that society recognizes being masculine, earning money, taking care of families. These are things that men are trying to do to show that they are masculine. It also has this really interesting heroic narrative behind it. We're the underdogs, and we're going to come out and fight against these big corporations and governments, and we're going to be victorious in the end. This is especially prevalent in the discussion of meme stocks, that heroic narrative, combined with the potential to get rich and support your family, do all these things you're supposed to be doing as a man that you can't do any other way. Well, that's what we're really getting at. That's why this cryptocurrency, that's why the meme stocks are so important to men.
So interesting. So thinking about sort of the public-facing nature of this, I'm wondering how you think kind of the main ideas, that main argument you just walked us through, are relevant to the broader public.
So we are looking at this continuing collapse of cryptocurrency exchanges, cryptocurrency prices falling and falling, people getting worried, banks that were dealing with it going out of business. And the underlying question here is, why? Why is this happening? How did we get to this point in the first place? Why are people buying these things and driving up their prices to unsustainable levels? Now, if we just put our economist hats on and we just think about this as economists, we're going to say, oh, this is about risk tolerance. This is about financial literacy. And that's the only story we're going to tell. And unfortunately, that is the story that we get out of mainstream media and most places where people are looking at this. But that's not the real story. This topic is just too important to be left to the economists. We as sociologists, social science have to weigh in and say, no. This is not about, people do not make decisions about money, about finance, independent from the way they make every other decision in their lives. Rather, these traits, what makes you a person, those matter for everything you're doing, including your financial decisions. And we have to make sure that people understand this is not just about people being rational or irrational. This is about people being people, and people are really bad at rationality. The other part of this is that buying cryptocurrency is not irrational. Even if, as is the case, that cryptocurrency goes to zero, it's still rational because the reward men are getting from buying that cryptocurrency is not financial reward. It's social, it's identity. And as long as that's the case, it doesn't matter if every cryptocurrency exchange in the country goes bust. People are still going to find a way to do this or switch over something like meme stocks because they're getting their payoff, not out of the money, but out of that sense of satisfaction. They get that payoff by making themselves think that they are more masculine.